Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 138. I think this is 130.
138, yes.
Okay. Uh, of the Peak of
Did I not
Serenity
update in the notes?
podcast.
Oh, I didn't.
No, you haven't in a while.
Okay, I'll do that real quick.
Uh, 138 of the Peak of Serenity podcast. I am, as always, one of your hosts, Emallson, and joining me, we have my co host, Anomoly.
Hello.
And this week, Dragonflight came out. And I
Oh
mean, I
yeah.
actually haven't talked with you yet about your experience with it, but if it were up to me, I would say, spoilers, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, quick one-liner. It's been fine, we'll say. Good expansion launch so far. Um, so yeah, I've had fun so far. And in
Uh,
brief, we'll get into it, but in brief.
yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much the topic for today. Like new expansion release. What do you expect us to talk about? So that's what we're doing this week. Uh, Before we get into that, we do have some class tuning, and under normal circumstances, I would actually say just skip this and we just talk about the expansion launch. But there's changes for Mistweaver and Brewmaster, so we need to talk about that. So
Let's go through it. I can start with the Mistweaver ones first. So these are all things that go into effect with your next reset. So with the weekly reset, so Tuesday NA, Wednesday EU, and then Thursday in Asia. Yeah, so the Mistweaver got a couple of changes. First up, Awakened Feline Spinning Crane Kick now heals 3 nearby enemies or allies. Sorry, for 60% of damage done was 50. So a slight increase in the Spinning Crane Kick healing from Awakened Feline, which is okay. The Vivify heal to primary target increased by 20%. Actually, one of the largest changes. Very good.
yeah,
Um, Peaceful Mending now increases the healing received by Enveloping Mist or Renewing Mist by 15 and 30%. Was 10 and 20%. So slight increase if you take Peaceful Mending. That was that's the capstone in Archery, I believe. Or what? Not the capstone, but one of the ones high up in the class tree, right?
that sounds right to me. But
Was
honestly, I couldn't tell you. Left
Yeah, I don't.
side
I
is
never
it's
remember.
on the left side, and the left side is dead, so I don't look at.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Oh, I'm sorry. Peaceful Mending is actually in the monk or the mystery of a specific tree
It. Okay.
over by Bone Dust Brew. We never actually take it. It's a nice little increase. Maybe you take it now. We'll see. And then Yulan's Whisper now heals 5 targets. Was 6, so one reduced target, but the healing is increased by 15%. So a solid round of changes in terms of healing, particularly in 5-man dungeons. So pretty much all of these are really focused on the 5-man or the small group healing for Mistweaver. They'll have, of course, some benefit in raids, but the most of the benefit will come from doing your Mythic Plus, your Mythic Pluses, Mythic Zeros, and things like that. So
Yeah.
the Elon's Whisper change is nice. The Vivify main heal is nice, particularly because Vivify has felt, most people have said it's felt weak. I'll also say, like, sort of agree that Vivify at least has felt weak. There's been enough other healing you can do to sort of cover it up right now and sort of the easier content, but has felt a little lackluster. But yeah, solid, we'll say 5-man changes.
Yeah.
Doesn't really change anything in a raid though.
I think the only like noteworthy thing right really is that Vivify change, because that just means that your triage healing with Vivify is just 20% better, and that's not a small number.
No, no. So it is a solid sort of, yes, at least single target upgrade for us. Um, but yeah, you'll probably feel that more in 5-mans anyway versus raids. But yeah, definitely a nice little boost. The Elon's Whisper change is actually really nice. I'd say in 5-mans becomes actually really good. We'll say in 5-man. So,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah,
Brewmaster also got a change, and this is actually a fairly significant change with ups and downs. And that is that Brewmaster's Balance, which is our tank passive, now grants 45% increased stamina instead of 30%. This brings it up closer to other classes. So, for reference, Protection Paladins had 45% before actually this round of tuning, which is also buffing theirs, but by a much smaller.
mhm.
Um, and what this does is, well, I think what the intent is that this helps us deal with magic damage. This gives us more literal health to just absorb that magic ticking damage before it
Mm-hmm.
kills us. You know, that gives
Yep.
it time to be healed either from our own abilities or from healer abilities. Um, and in that regard, it is going to do that. It's going to give us another 10-ish% health, and it's going to be good. But then also, slight downside. It's going to decrease the rate at which we spawn Gift of the Ox orbs.
Oh no.
Once again, Gift of the Ox strikes back. So this is whatever percent HP this ends up working out to a ballpark. It's like 8% or 10%. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's also going to decrease the rate at which we gain Gift of the Ox orbs by the same amount. I will note that when we got the undocumented Brewmaster changes that buffed Gift of the Ox healing, find that number real quick. When we got that, Gift of the Ox actually got buffed by more than 40%. So like the 1-to-1 that would have maintained it with the previous HP buffs or HP changes would have been a 40% buff to Gift of the Ox.
Mm-hmm.
So we're actually still net positive with that because it was a 60% buff. And now
Okay.
we're losing basically another like 10-ish% spawn rate. But that's still net positive with the 60% buff that we got to Gift of the Ox, which makes me wonder a little bit if these like changes were already in the works and just like not quite fine tuned yet.
Yeah, that's fair.
So like it is a good change. It is a buff. It's going to help with our biggest weakness, which is magic damage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is not going to suddenly make us like a blood or a human hunter that just kind of has great tools to deal with that. But
Yeah.
it does help. It does help.
Nice. Nice. Very cool. And that goes in with reset too, right? That isn't already
Yes.
live.
Yeah. That
Okay.
that's I believe. Yeah. That's part of the
I think it was part. Yeah,
yes,
same
weekly
the same notes
maintenance.
as the Mistweaver one.
Weekly maintenance December 6th in North America, December 7th in EU, and December 8th in
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. So I think some solid, we'll say, first week buffs to Mistweavers and Brewmasters, which is maybe, I guess, a good thing. There's a ton of other changes too. Like Fire Mages got
yeah.
ton of like just increases in damage. Like a
Yeah.
couple other classes got some adjustments, but
I almost forgot one other very, very relevant change that is not under the monk
oh
section,
yeah,
but it is very relevant for brewmasters. Tanks generate 650% threat now instead of 550%.
they just need to get like
Legion
threats.
numbers were like 950%. We're creeping up there. Like we're getting
Yeah.
there. Um and so I mean they literally put it in the dev notes. This is a 15% ish increase to threat. The goal for the dev notes is to make it easier to hold threat versus a DPS character's burst. This comes up a
Mm-hmm.
lot. A lot of classes actually have burst cooldowns that they either didn't have before or that they're now much spikier than before. So there's the Fury Warrior problem that we had for a long time that now pops up a lot more because a lot more classes have access to that kind of thing. And when
Yeah.
people are staggering those, Arcane Mage A does their burst on pack 1, Arcane Mage B does it on pack 2. The tank only has one set of cooldowns to deal with that. So even if the
Right.
tank's using their DPS cooldowns to deal with the threat issue, they can't cooldown every time a DPS does because there's 3 DPS and only.
Right.
Um,
Right. Right. Yeah.
so this is another step in the right direction. We'll see how it plays out.
Nice. Nice. Um. Well, cool. Yeah, and I think some solid just changes all around this first week, which hopefully bodes well for like the way that Blizzard's going to start sort of putting together changes going into the next couple weeks. Particularly now that they won't have that heroic week buffer to sort of do the raid version of these changes.
Yeah,
Um, we'll see how that goes.
yeah. I guess we'll get to my thoughts on Master right now. Later, talk about that.
Yeah,
I
we can
have
talk about
some.
how the classes felt. Yeah.
Yeah. But before we get to that, uh, the expansion came out last Monday. It's literally been almost exactly a week.
Yeah, a week and 2 hours, basically 2.5 hours,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, since it launched.
Um, how was release day?
It was good actually. So I had not planned on being online right at 6. I had the whole kids put into bed and everything. And funnily enough, my wife actually was like, "Hey, I'll take care of the kids tonight. You just go play games." And I was like, "Okay, what's this gonna cost me?" Didn't cost me anything. She was just really, really nice. It was funny. It was awesome. I mean, she's super cool.
I mean, there's a
So
reason you
anyway,
married her, right?
yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I couldn't get any higher, man. Hit the peak there with her. Um, so no. So no, so yeah, so I was on actually right at 6. Got stuck in a little bit of a loading loop for probably like the first like 15, 20 minutes. Like basically boat wouldn't load the next zone, get a bunch of instance aborted stuff, which I think a bunch of people hit right at the start. Um, but then yeah, it was a part of like, as soon as the boat got in, got to leveling, and honestly, it was really smooth. I mean, I think ultimately I leveled with one of my other buddies that we have the past 2 or 3 expansions, and yeah, we got ahead of the pack pretty early, and honestly didn't see another set of players until we got to like the end of the whatever the finals. I can never say the new zone names, whatever the final
Eldrassus.
zone. Yeah,
Yeah.
Thaldraszus in like the Chromie time area, we started to see a bunch more like alliance players because we were in
Okay.
horde mode and stuff.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, other than that, it was dead. We were quick. Not a lot of slowdowns. I think we ended up losing maybe like 20 or 30 minutes to oh we did lose about 30 minutes to getting stuck in a quest or in a cinematic loop at the
Oh,
end of the what was the waking. I'm gonna need to pull up these zone names. The whatever the first zone is called.
yeah.
Um
Yeah. Waking
there
Shore.
was like, yeah, Waking Shore. There was like that fire area that like you do. There's like
Yeah.
you assault it and there's like a cinematic that plays. But if you got there early enough, what ended up happening is like you'd watch the full cinematic, but then you wouldn't load to the next area. But because you were still in the trigger area for the cinematic, you would just
You get
rewatch the
ported back,
cinematic.
you watch the cinematic again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got caught in that, but other than that, I mean, that was probably the biggest issue, and other than that, it was super smooth. I hit 70 night one. We hit 70. Started at like 6 p.m. Eastern. I hit 70 like 12:30, so it took us about 6.5 hours. With all the stops and starts and stuff like that. So and really not. I had leveled to getting dragon riding, and that was the extent of my beta leveling. I didn't
Yeah.
go any further. So everything else was new beyond that. But it was fun. It was all the zones seem really cool. I like, to be fair, I'm actually going back and doing a bunch of the side quests I skipped
Yeah.
in the different areas. So I had a blast. It was the shortest, I think, leveling experience we've had, and I kinda liked it. I don't know, like, it kinda was just long enough that you get introduced to all the zones, but not like the 24-hour slog that I remember, like, going through, like, Cataclysm would have been, right? Or some of the older expansions.
Yeah. I have very mixed feelings on that. And I don't want to spend too much time on that particular thing right now
Yeah.
because we could be on that tangent forever. Um, Speaking of forever, I was not able to log in at all.
Oh, no.
So I lost track of time a little bit on day of. And so it's like 5:50, like, oh, expansion's about to release. Let me go log in. No.
Not.
Uh-uh. Um, I could not get to character select for something like 3 hours.
Oh,
Uh, and
Jesus.
then I couldn't actually get into the game until basically midnight. So right around the time you were hitting level 70, I actually
Yeah.
got to finally log in and play the game. Um, and that is the cost of being on Area 52. We transferred
Yeah.
our guild to Area 52, knowing that this might happen, and it did.
Yeah.
Um, but it ended up being okay. I didn't hit 70 until Wednesday because the Area 52 stuff just continued to be extremely unstable through Tuesday.
Yep.
And what I actually ended up doing, it was unstable on Wednesday too. But what I actually did on Wednesday is I have a flexible work schedule. So after our morning meeting, I like did a little bit of work and then went and played WoW during the day when fewer people were online. and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
worked in the evening
yeah.
because I
That
could
is
do that.
awesome. Yeah,
Um,
that is
so
awesome.
that let me actually like get in and play the game and not take 30 seconds to loot each mob, which
Yeah.
makes leveling very slow if you have to loot items from the mobs and it just takes forever to actually do so.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
If you want to
That's funny.
experience what my like first few days of playing Dragonflight was like, go to Azure Span basically anytime.
That's true. That is true. Places, yeah, laggy as heck. Yeah, that's. Oh, I forgot you guys moved to Area 52.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I heard reports that like a couple people in our guild. So Mount Gainus was generally fine, other than like the initial like instance not found on load.
right.
We had a couple of guys in our guild get like folks get kicked off line for like 30 minutes or something, and like get that like blue bar not moving
Yeah,
right thing. But other than that, I mean, Mount Gainus was fairly solid. Some loot lag, but
yeah,
nothing too crazy. Not like, yeah, I heard reports of, like Illidan being bad, Area 52 being bad. Even was it Sargeras is the big alliance server? That one
yeah,
being a little bit rough. So yeah, we were no major issues. So
yeah,
but yeah, leveled through it all. It was fun. I will say that like once you unlock dragon riding, like that is just so
yeah.
much fun. So much
Um,
fun. I don't know if
okay.
we want to talk about that here.
There's one thing I want to talk about actually kind of connecting dragon riding and leveling. So one
Yeah.
of the issues that I have with like the post cataclysm leveling is that they stripped out this piece of the gameplay, which was like trying to figure out how to get where you want to. Like there's two pieces
Hmm.
of the navigation kind of mini game to leveling. One is figuring out where the heck you're supposed to go, and then figuring out how to get there.
Yep.
And I generally am of the opinion that when they removed the first piece in RAF by just baking in the like quest helper add-on to the game that tells you where you need to go,
Hmm.
as far as I'm concerned, that's like 95% positive as far as changes go. But then the
Yeah.
other piece of like removing the question of how you actually get to the place that you know you need to go, um, yeah, I'm much more like negative on. And basically, since Cataclysm, their zone design has not really presented you with any questions about like how you get from point A to point B. It's very easy. You don't
Yeah.
have to think about it. You pretty much either walk in
Follow
a
the
straight
path.
line, or there's a road, or it's just like. But sometimes there's a like a cutscene or a like the stupid rocket from Badlands down to Swamp of Sorrows, or
Yeah.
from Eastern King or Eastern Plaguelands down to Badlands. Like they just removed the whole that whole piece of the gameplay. They removed it.
Yeah.
Dragon Riding, in a sneaky way, actually reintroduces it because their zone design with this is way more challenging. Is a weird word to use, but I think it's an appropriate one. In that it's not just like trivial walk in a straight line. Go in a lot of cases,
Mhm.
or like you could, but you could also dragon ride.
So much cooler.
And by introducing that, like, I guess in theory, a lot of times you could. These new zones, they have a lot of vertical elements to them, so sometimes you literally can't. There's a huge, canyon between you and where you need to go, so you have to dragon ride. It's not super complex. It's not like hard. This is not,
Yeah.
nobody's going to quit the game because they can't figure out how to get to the place they're trying to go. But it just like introduces that little bit of, let me open my map and like look at this, or zoom around on my dragon for a little bit and figure out where I'm supposed to land for this, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that adds a lot of fun to the leveling experience that is not present in like Shadowlands or
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think, I mean, to me, the other nice part about this is we started talking about leveling and dragon riding is that like all the unlocks for it, like in terms of like the talents and sort of the increases you get are account wide, which means like I
yeah.
logged in my druid and I dragon rode off the initial boat that you come
Yep,
into
that's
like
so
the
fun.
Waking Shore on, which is like it just like it doesn't it makes the leveling experience like quicker, but still to your point, doesn't remove that sort of like navigation or like even exploration sort of part of it, right? Of like
Yeah,
hey, like I see that cool vista or that cool mountain. Let me like fly around it and check it out, right? Or,
Yeah.
can I get to the top of this mountain with like my little dragon, which getting that final dragon token or whatever at the top of the mountain in whatever the fourth zone is like was not easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like to get up there. So
I am fairly happy with where they landed on the tuning of dragon riding. Where like you start off and you have your 3 vigor and it takes like 30 seconds on the ground for it to recharge and like 15 seconds in the air moving at high speed for it to recharge. And then
mhm.
by the end, when you've got everything, it's like 10 seconds to recharge on the ground, 5 seconds in the air. You have 6 vigor, but it's not enough that it is like trivial.
Right, yeah.
It,
I still run out like on my druid, I'll still run out of vigor as I go around herbing, like or mining, right?
yeah,
Because that's what my druid does. Like there'll still be points where I'm like, oh, I screwed up. Like I didn't get enough forward
exactly.
momentum and I just went straight up and now
Yeah.
I'm floating and I'm out of vigor, right?
The uh
So
the vigor and like reduced time it takes to recharge the vigor while you're at high speeds gives you a lot of leeway once you're comfortable with it to like make small mistakes and still keep going, which is good. I think that's like
yeah.
for something we're going to be doing a lot of. I think that's a thing. Um, it just removes the little like, oops, I made a small mistake. I'm plummeting to my death, or not death because you land safely on your dragon from any height
Yeah.
at any speed. But um, you know, I'm not going to have to like crash into the ground and sit there for a minute and a half waiting for vigor to recharge to get back on the path. The
Yeah.
upgrades just prevent that. But you can still like make a major C and just like crash land, which
Oh
I
yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, I will say one thing that dragon riding has not taught me yet, but I need to learn this is that like because of the high rate of speed you move at, like I don't look at where I'm landing, right? Because I'm used to like on any mount just like
Yeah,
getting low and stopping right before at the ground before there's any mobs around me and just being okay. And so there have been a couple times, particularly in the Waking Shore and like the Netharian area, where I've landed, gotten dazed by an elite mob, and then died because it's like not thinking about like, oh, I
yep,
need to care about like where I'm actually like coming down. So,
yeah,
um, no, but honestly, I think if dragon riding was the only new thing they put in this expansion, like you still get like more levels to level or whatever, and like
yeah,
dragon riding that was the only like new system, like no talents, no professions or whatever, like it would still be good. Like I'd still enjoy it.
yeah,
Like it like it's just it's a weird thing that like it makes I think it makes flying more interesting than like pointing in a direction, going on auto run, and like going and grabbing something, maybe coming back and hoping you don't like fly into a
fly off the
fatigue zone
map.
and die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, which is the only thing
Um,
you had to worry about. So
there is. So you mentioned you move really, 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 really fast while you're dragon riding. It is really jarring going back to my, very fast speed flying mount in the old zones. And because like we had to fly to Uldaman, right? And going back
yeah,
to that, and it's like, wow, this
it
is so
sucks.
slow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I will say the only negative to dragon riding that I found is there are certain, at least I found a couple of conditions where you can go too fast and disconnect because I think you trigger you somehow trigger like the speed hack like
Yeah,
thing
I
that
I
or
have
like
run
some
into
sort of
that
like
once.
desync. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hit it a bunch. So I did all the races, at least not the advanced races, but like the base one on gold. And I think I disconnected doing that like one night, like probably 4 or 5 times, all
Oh
just
boy.
because like, yeah, going just, I don't know if it was going too fast or just like the way I was sort of flying around it, like, yeah, would trigger a disconnect. So,
There
but no,
is
other
a
than that, it's been
max
fun.
speed on the dragon. Like there is a top speed you get to where it doesn't, even if you're like at the top speed and you hit the like 3 vigor, like whirling
Yeah.
whatever thing, you won't go fast.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, but it's very
Yeah.
fast.
I have a little weak core that gives me like a percentage. And I'm like, if it hits like 1200%, I'm like, oh, I'm going fast now.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly what that
Like
equates
for
to.
reference, a very fast, oh man, I think very
It's
fast
310.
is 310. You're
Yeah, it's
literally
310. Yeah.
moving,
It's quad 4 times.
quadruple of a regular flying, like fast flying mount.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And actually, kind of connected to that, the zones are really big. They're clearly designed for that purpose. Like the
Yeah.
zones are big, and that's another kind of zone design change that I think is very good. There's a lot more space between things.
Hmm.
Whereas if you look at BFA or Legion or uh, Shadowlands zones, they're all very compact. There's like the amount of time, like you basically take the amount of space between things and you cut it by a factor of four, pretty much, and
Yeah.
that's the old zones. And it's very like if you do try to go around on foot, it's very telling. Like you can like walking around on foot, your marker on the map barely moves.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot, like I think you mentioned the verticality, but I think that, and like I think every zone has this, but this is really in that final zone where like there's like the huge mountain like back where I think where the I don't know if the raid's there, but there's some instance back there.
Yeah,
And then like if you are looking east out of the city, it's just like is almost like a sheer set of like towers and cliffs up.
right.
Which I think is like super cool because you can like essentially like almost fly down. Like it's almost meant that you like fly down, fly under the aqueducts or whatever. And like
Yeah,
they did in terms of world building, I think they like you said, they built a lot of it with dragon riding in mind. And it does like not only does it make not only is just dragon riding itself fun, but like the fact that the world around you that you can look at and see is so interesting, like just makes it like I don't
yeah,
know, like the perfect
yeah.
marrying of those two things. So
And like Waking Shore is probably the second most vertical zone. Like you don't have very good dragon riding when you're first there, but if you go and the this campaign quests don't require you to use that much.
yeah.
But if you go back and you do like herbing or mining, um, stuff there, you discover that really quickly because you go from like two like nearby big air quotes there herb nodes, and one is like on the floor of the canyon and one is on the cliffs of the canyon, and it takes you like 4 points of vigor going straight up to reach the top.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that too. That yeah, the verticality there is cool, and even like if you don't think about verticality, but like the Inari Plains, that's the second zone.
Yeah,
Even though it's mostly flat, it's still interesting because like it's like a rolling plane, so you can kind of like stay
yeah,
low and sort of follow it or whatever as you go
that's fun.
across it. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that is fun.
it's that, and then you have the trees in the Azure Span, so like the forest
uh
area of the Azure Span,
yeah,
which is like fun to like weave through them.
I feel like I
So
need to turn my graphics down or like the foliage down to make that enjoyable because like some of the branches are not really there and you can
yeah.
just fly through them, and some of them are really there and you'll crash into them and stop.
Yeah, you'll just stop. Yeah. Yeah.
um
Yeah. But
so
uh but
yeah,
yeah, I guess one more thought, and maybe one more thought on Dragon Ride before we spend too much time here is like, have you done the races at all?
I did all the races on a couple of the zones on beta and I have not gone back through them all on, but I did.
Gotcha.
I also, for the record, haven't actually collected all of the glyphs. I have
Oh,
collected. I am missing four from the final zone, so I'm just missing one of the talent points, right? Because the final one
gotcha.
costs five.
It's a
But
lot.
honestly, I haven't felt the need for it, so I just haven't gone to get it yet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
I
don't think
probably should because it was very noticeable getting like the final upgrade for vigor in the air. And I feel like
uh-huh.
as I start doing more skinning, mining, herbing, that last one that upgrades my vigor on the ground is going to be more noticeable.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, because I think the races are a really cool thing, like a really cool piece of content that like Blizzard can just add to. So I've done, like I said, I've done all the races
Yeah.
on gold in all four zones, which was just a blast to do. Like spent 2 hours one night, maybe, yeah, probably like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, just going through them all. It was super fun. I do wish there was some sort of like global leaderboard or like a leaderboard where you could see like the top 10 times for that specific race, because I think that
Right.
would be a fun thing. And I know there's multiplayer races. I haven't actually I queued for one for like 30 minutes and didn't get in, but I didn't see.
We had somebody during leveling queue for one, and they got yanked from like Azure Span back to Waking Shore
Oh, really? Oh
to do their
no.
multiplayer race, which they won. But then they had to fly back to Azure Span with like
Yeah.
basic dragon riding.
That's awful. That's awful. Yeah. No, but that was, I mean, that was, those are fun. So yeah, I think I can't say enough good stuff about Dragonriding. I think
Yeah,
it's a
it's really cool.
super cool
We
system.
haven't really touched on like all the customizations, but like feels like everything is dropping dragon customizations, and yet I still haven't gotten the ones that I want.
I feel the same. Yeah, I feel like I've gotten a ton already, and there's still like, yeah, there's
But
still a ton for the dragon that I like that yeah aren't there.
at the same time, like there's a lot that um there's a lot that I've got. That's not to say it's not like it's all junk like it is if you look at like a free to play game where there's like 3 good skins and 4 million awful ones. They're just recolors. That's not the case, really. It's more like there's a bunch of like little things that you can use to like get the look that you want. But
Right,
then there's like a big piece that's missing, which for me is the color of the dragon. Because all of the colors are locked behind the different renowns. So, for
right.
example, to get the blue proto drake, you have to get your Tuskar reputation, and I have not been doing that grind, so it'll be a bit.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of rep grinds, actually, how is your what kind of stuff you've been doing for raid prep?
For yeah, so I mean, I guess raid prep stuff. Honestly, I've been lazy this week. I just did my Mythic Zeros.
Good,
So I
that's the
did,
correct choice.
yeah, so I did all my Mythic Zeros. I did them all actually on Tuesday. Actually, it was Tuesday night. I think we did them all. Um, and the only reason I did them early was because I was out all weekend, which is why the podcast has moved too. But yeah, we did all my Mythic Zeros has been the major thing. And I guess outside of that, real quick, we could talk about dungeons in a minute. But yeah, I did I did one World Quest tour. So I basically cleared the map
Yeah,
of the first set of World Quests, which we didn't put this in notes, but they're gonna start resetting daily, which I'm like not
yeah. I
what I want in my
don't.
life.
I actually am not a fan of that change.
Yeah.
I that change feels like there's that kind of vocal minority of people that are like, I don't have anything to do. I want to clear the board, and I'm like, no, I do not want to
Yeah.
clear the board.
Yeah, I will tell you for me, like personally, like being like I have not logged in. I actually haven't logged in to WoW since Friday afternoon.
Yeah,
And like I actually don't feel like I'm behind. Like I don't feel like I am materially behind in anything at this point, which I
yeah,
think is for the first expansion of the WoW, it's great. Like if this was Legion, particularly Legion, but even in BFA or even Shadowlands, I'd be like, I am literally now half a week behind everybody else in terms of like
yeah,
power progression, just everything.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I did my Mythic Zeros. I'll tell you, they were not difficult. I don't know, like I feel like a lot of what, at least most of what I gauge things on are like people in peak, right? Complaining or not complaining, but speaking.
Yeah.
We'll say. Well, let's not be rude to like our fun peak friends. Um, and like everybody was like, "This is like awful, like super hard," and I'm like, "Well, I didn't find it that hard. I also didn't do it in a full guild group, so
Oh,
it was only me and two other people, right, from my
was your
guild. So it's
tank?
three of us.
Was it? What
No,
was your
tank was
tank?
a pug.
Tank was a pug.
We
Okay.
pug we pugged like 3 different tanks through this whole world tour we did.
Yeah.
Um, and, like, honestly, like, it wasn't that bad. I think it stems from the fact that people don't realize while they're Mythic Zeros, you can't just pull the first half of the instance of the boss and expect not to go horribly wrong.
I
Right?
disagree.
Oh, no.
I
Not
disagree.
in not
But
in pugs.
not in pugs. Okay, 100% agree. Not in pugs, and not in every dungeon as well. Like some
Yeah.
of the dungeons are significantly more hostile to big pull. There are some dungeons that you just like. So I don't remember the academy, um,
Yep.
the area with all the mana worms and things. No,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
That one sucks.
You cannot do that. Like you can't just be like, okay, everybody's got your buffs. Which pro tip: go and talk to the recruiters. They give you a buff.
Yep.
Each different Dragonflight gives you a different buff. So go talk to them. Just a nice little thing. Very easy. Anyway, you cannot pull straight from those to the boss.
No.
But then on the other hand, for the tree boss there, you can totally pull all of that stuff.
Yeah, you could.
Um, I can confirm that you can because I did it twice.
Big man. Yeah.
Uh, but like then I also like we did the tree boss first. I think I did it on my mom, and
Mhm.
I was like, okay, that was pretty chill. Let's go in. We'll pull stuff on the other side, and didn't try and go all the way to the boss. But I pulled a bunch and just got like destroyed, absolutely stomped.
Nice. Nice. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, but it was definitely fun. I mean, it was fun too because our like so we basically pugged, you know, two people throughout this, two different it was interchangeable. I think we ended up with probably like rotating probably like 6 or 7 people through those two slots over our world tour.
right,
And like it's weird in that like everybody was kind of chill about it. Like we made a couple mistakes in one dungeon, wiped like once or twice, and like the tank was like, sorry, it's pulled too much. Or like one of the DPS was like, oh, I backed into this like mob and pulled extra or whatever. It was
yeah.
my fault. So everybody was super kind of just like mellowed out about it. But got through it all pretty quickly. I don't know about your loot luck. I got every single intellect trinket from every boss that was available. Like I literally DE'd 2 trinkets like because I could number 1, I couldn't not that I couldn't trade them. It was like nobody wanted them in the group. And like I already had like 3 other ones that I could swap around. So
Yeah,
my loot luck this expansion is starting out with, I'll get every trinket there is.
yeah.
I'm still wearing like 300 boots, but like got every trinket imaginable at
Well,
372.
meanwhile, I'm still using my Dreadfire vessel.
Oh, nice. Nice.
It
Nice.
is
Very
311, so I've got that
that's
going
good.
for me. But it is a Dreadfire vessel. It is from the last expansion, and I am still wearing it. I had like pretty medium loot luck. So I did 2 world tours. One on my monk, which was a full leather group in guild. I'm really glad that we didn't spend a lot of time like planning those because all our plans would have been out the window with the way the Area 50 is for the first. People would
Yeah.
have planned to be running on like Tuesday and they wouldn't have even been able to log in, let alone reach level 70 by the time Tuesday rolled around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So uh, but like I ran it on Friday in a guild group in the leather sack, and we did some trading. It was good. We got a bunch of loot. I got a pretty decent amount. My bag eye level is like 368.
Okay.
Um,
That's not too bad.
which is mixed in some crafting stuff because I'm also doing leather working. Um, and then didn't get any. Annoyingly, I'm doing the crafting. I didn't get any of the. There's the Titan training matrix things
Yeah.
that you can
Yeah.
get from Mythic Zeros. I didn't get any,
Oh,
so I
really?
can't craft myself gear. I can only craft it for other people,
Yeah. Oh
which is
no.
a little awkward. Um, but then I did it on my DK on Sunday, and I did that in a cloth stack, and I actually got more loot on my DK.
Oh, really? Oh
It's
no.
just it was starting on at a lower item level, so it's like the slots to their left over are lower item level than the slots that were left over on my monk, just because like my monk has crafted stuff, my monk has more stuff from doing reps and world quests and things that I did not my DK.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
That's hilarious.
which is
That's
actually
awesome.
funnily enough exactly what happened with my monk and paladin, the DK paladin in Shadowlands.
You're all getting more gear. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, no, yeah, it was fun though. I mean all the new dungeons are pretty cool. Except for Ruby Life Pools. I think I'm a fan of all of them. The last boss in Ruby Life Pools can just die in a
I
all of that on fire.
I honestly don't understand that boss really, like
I
at all. Uh,
I don't know. I don't know about your experience with it, but in my experiences, no matter how well we placed the little things, like so number one, I don't understand how the debuff goes on the group because there were some pulls where we got one person or two people with the debuff and dropped
right.
minimal amount of pulls, and then other pulls where all 5 people got it. So I just maybe don't understand the mechanic. But then the other thing too is it felt like you got that debuff like 3 times in like 30 seconds. So
Yeah.
like the platform goes from like 1 or 2 fire patches to literally covered in fire with like one's place to stand. And that one place, of course, the big dragon is just breathing fire on it too. So
Yeah.
it's like you
Yeah.
are just screwed no matter what you do.
Um
So
this is also something. It is difficult for me to like compare my experience between my monk and my DK, right? Because my
Mhm.
monk, we had a pretty normal group, nothing really to write home about. And then in my DK, we had a demo lock, and
Oh,
I
okay,
don't know
yeah.
if you've heard about demo locks right now, but they are anything but normal.
Yes, yes, yes.
Uh, like the bosses were just getting deleted because doing like 60k. Demo lock is not all right. That is, if they scale, like if this is not like the peak of their damage, which it almost certainly isn't. Demo, it's like way too good. Like way too good, and we need like 5 more ASAP.
Jesus, that's crazy. Yeah, we had. I don't think we had a warlock in my group, but I know some of the warlocks in my guild were talking about just demo being just a bit over like
Just a wee bit. So
just kind of good.
like the group that I did with my DK, it was a cloth stack. It was 2 arcane mages, a holy priest, and a demo lock. And
Nice.
the arcane mages were like alternating their like so that they wouldn't destroy each other's damage and all of that.
Hmm.
And the demo lock is just over here doing just like multiple times over the course of it hit 100k DPS on pulls I was doing. And I just progressively pulled bigger and bigger and bigger because the damage numbers just kept going up, and I got more gear. Like my
Yeah.
DK went from like 350 to 60.
Oh,
So
Jesus,
like as
nice,
I got
nice.
more gear and more comfortable with it, like by the time we hit Ulamon, I literally pulled from the entrance to the first boss, from the first boss
Nice.
to the second boss, from the second boss to the third boss,
Oh my God.
and then from the third boss, I did it in like 2 pulls.
Yeah.
But when the stuff just like dies, it's
Yeah.
hard to tell because like on my monk, I would be like doing like a pull 2 packs, and I'll rotate CDs through it, and like we're a group with normal human beings that aren't doing a bajillion DPS.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I have to actually like go through my cooldowns, and then I can't go through and do a big multi in the next one. I use my
Right, right.
cooldowns because the pack lasted more than 10 seconds.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
So yeah,
Yeah.
uh, it was fun though. I on the whole liked the dungeons, and I was a little bit surprised that Ulamon was not my least favorite going through them on live. Um, actually, like
Yeah.
there's okay. This is gonna be a little bit maybe of a deep cut, but there's 2 kinds of dungeons in Dragonflight. There's Mists of Pandaria dungeons. Okay, this is stuff
Okay.
like Algathar Academy. This is stuff like Ruby Life Pools. Um, and then I don't know whether to call them Legion style, Cataclysm style. Like somewhere they're not mop style. They're not, and that's
Yeah.
stuff that is more like Uldamon, No Good Offensive, and Neltharis. Like Neltharis,
Okay.
actually, Neltharis reminds me a ton of what's the Deep Home dungeon?
Oh, yeah. No. Oh, it's like Deep Rock something, I want to say.
I don't remember, but it just huge vibes from that dungeon. Just like it feels like that. Um,
Okay.
so there's a definite divide in like the design of the dungeons, and I feel like there's like 4 or 5 mop style ones, which for the record I not my favorite.
Yeah.
Temple of the Jade Serpent. What's the Jade the monastery? No, I don't like those.
Shadowpen Monastery, yeah.
Shadowpan Monastery, not. I don't know what it is. They're just not interesting. I didn't like
Fair enough.
them. Kata dungeons though, I will do like Kata dungeons all day long. So it's a little bit hit and miss. I would
Hmm.
say none of them are as bad as Mist's dungeon. I do not like Mist's dungeon.
You're not gonna be a fan of Jade Serpent Temple of Jade Serpent coming
That
up
is
here in
correct. I am not going to
Mythic
be a fan.
Plus.
And maybe they'll be different in Mythic Plus, right? Because some of the issue with Mop, like it just wasn't
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
like just died.
Yeah, they
Everything
fell
died.
over, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, nice. Yeah, no, I would sort of I'd probably say like I didn't find other than Ruby life pools and that final boss, I think the rest of the dungeons were fine. I mean, I think they have a lot more. It seems like this time there's a lot more like route selection type dungeons where like there are multiple like it's not a linear like Oldemon is very much a linear progression start to front like
Yeah,
and it seems like they've added a lot more like you can do this boss or this boss or that boss, right? And sort of
right.
giving yourself a like there's an option to pick. So you don't always take the same route. So
Yeah,
um so that was nice. I think the only so other than the last boss of Ruby Life Pools, I will say the diseases in Bracken, is it Bracken Spore or
Brackenhide Hollow.
Brackenhide Hollow are extremely, extremely frustrating. Like as a
Brack.
healer,
Yeah.
that like when we did it, I did it the first time in actually heroic, like on Tuesday during the day or whatever. Did a quick random heroic, and my tank went right the first time through the plague area or that disease area. And like when we did it on Mythic Zero, I was like, tank, go left. Do not go right. I'm not clearing. Just go left. We'll clear all that trash. We'll cut across the bridge, kill like one or two disease mobs, and that's it. Like,
Yeah.
though that was like one of it's that, and then I think there's one other stacking magic dot area. But as a healer, that was the only annoying part because like I couldn't keep up with the spells. I was like dispelling on cooldown, and it's like
Yeah.
things were just
Well,
stacking
it's
up. But I'm
also
sure we were doing it wrong. But
there's a totem that gets spawned that is like it's basically like an anti-fish stick where it
okay,
has the same priority as a fish stick, but instead of healing the mobs, it just murders your group, which
fair enough.
is absolutely going to
That
destroy you.
happens.
And if people are not on top of it and killing it, then your life is going to be. But at the same time, also like my experience in that dungeon in particular was very different doing it in my monks group, where we had three people that could dispel diseases because we had three monks,
Oh, nice. Yes, yes, yes.
and then doing it on my DK where we had zero people that could dispel diseases because guess what?
Yeah,
Warlocks can't do it, mages can't do it, priests can't do it, and Death Knights sure can't do it.
yeah.
So we just had to heal
That's
through
rough.
it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. No, that was sort of the only rough, I'd say the only like annoying part from a healing perspective. The rest of the dungeons were fine. It's sort of just learning them basically. Like most of like the oh crap were like issues were just us not doing mechanics, right? It's just like
Yeah.
just not doing what it was supposed to. But no, it was. I mean, they're fun. There are a couple interesting ones, like I think it's in the academy, the bird boss, where you have to like dunk the orbs. That was sort of an interesting thing. I'm trying to think if there's any other interesting mechanical bosses. But no, I had fun doing the tours. So,
Yeah.
or my one tour, I guess I didn't get a chance to do another one, um, but I guess yeah. So instead of I guess moving, I guess other raid prep. I mean, in terms of, I guess for me, like I said, it was really just the Mythic Plus, or sorry, Mythic Zeros. Have you been doing anything additional on the raid prep side?
So on my monk, I did the Cobalt rep because it's fast.
Oh,
It's actually
yeah, I
very
did that. I did that
fast.
one.
If you can luck into an Azure Span instance that is not laggy as hell.
Yeah.
Because you have to loot the mobs, they do not give you reputation for killing them. They have like a drop
Yep.
that gives you rep. But once you get that, like, people have sorted out there's some like really combination of basically Torghast powers that you can get. That
Mhm.
it's like get the thing that drops fire under your feet, and then you get
Okay.
all of the ones that give you leech, and
Okay.
then the ones that increase your damage done by a lot, and you just walk on them.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Um, you have to spend a while there to get all of those, and they only last for 5 minutes unless you can kill more things and refresh them. So there's like a there's a bit going on to make that happen, but I can see how it would work in theory. I didn't do that, but it still only took a few hours to get through that and get the ring. Um, I did a little bit of the Rathion rep and just decided it was not worth my time
I
because
saw
all
I saw a
these
bunch of posts on it, but yeah.
yeah all these reps, by the way, are dropping. You get to the end, you get like a 389 piece, right?
Okay.
And normal drops 389. Doing this for a
Yeah.
normal raid piece. And there's not even like we can trade stuff in normal. Well, A, you can go do keys and then trade stuff in normal. But also,
Sure.
B, you have group loot. You don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, there's no more
So
trading requirement. Yeah.
I can see it mattering a little bit more for people who are planning to raid on Tuesday and won't have
Mm-hmm.
time to do keys and things on Tuesday, or they raid. But honestly, like, it's so unimportant. And even the Cobalt one, which is fast, still took me probably 4 or 5 hours.
Wow. So I did that. I think it was Wednesday during the day. I AFK'd it. I joined a group and just sort of followed them around. I threw a couple heals, but I was working. All right, I would get some
Yeah,
stuff done. But it took me literally an hour and 20 minutes. Like, but also I had like our Azure span did not lag at all. So like I had
yeah,
zero issues looting, and like it was a group of like this druid had like some crazy amount of powers. Like he would
yeah,
turn like purple or whatever, and the like mobs would just like he'd shred them essentially. Like,
yeah.
and so it was like a druid, a DK, a feral druid, a DH, sorry, and like some sort of caster, and we sort of like the four of us sort of just ran around and cleaved everything.
Once I think the thing for us, for me, was once more people were level 70, there was just more
Hmm.
competition for mods. So there was a lot of
Yeah.
like we had a loop going in the groups that I was in, and we would just like sometimes hit a point in the loop where we would now be behind another group, and there would be like no mobs left, and we'd it up,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
makes it take a lot
Yeah. Yeah.
longer.
Not I would yeah, that would take a while. Yeah. For me when I did it that initial day and it was during the day, there was like zero. There was one other group farming and that was it.
Yeah,
So it was pretty easy. It was pretty not too bad for that. I guess I did do the ring stuff, yeah. Um and got that. But yeah, that's yeah. I don't know if there's
but
anything else.
there's a bunch of stuff that people have figured out with
Hmm.
how scaling on drops from rares and things works. There were some exploits where there were a couple of rares that were not locking you out. Like there's supposed to be a daily loot lock, so people were like shard hopping to just kill them over and over and over. And the way that the scaling was working, it just kept going up.
Yep.
So as long as you could keep bumping up your average item level, like over time, that would bump the eye level dropped by the rare, and then the eye level dropped by the rare bumps your eye level again, and you just keep
Hmm.
kind of laddering up towards the top. Um, Never getting really higher than like 380 something. Is really where it peaked, and they actually turned off like rare drops for a couple hours
Yeah,
while they
for a
fixed
while.
it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that I did not get to partake in that
Yeah, I
that
didn't either.
spam.
I mean, I was in guild chat going like, please do not get banned over this. Please do not
Yeah.
get banned over like normal eye level gear on week 1.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, that would have been bad. But no, yeah, there was a couple of rares like that. But then there also are, I don't know if you saw this, people are calling them like the super rares. So
Yes.
there's like a set of mobs that drop, what is it, 389 gear, I want to say?
Up to 389 depending on your eye
Up to
level.
three. Yeah, and and they are like sort of it's a higher item level than other typical rares, and then yeah, they there's like a handful of them that I mean Wildhead has a post on them that you go around and you can kill. They drop very specific items, so it's not like a shared sort of like common loot pool. Like each mob has its own individual loot pool, and
Yeah.
yeah, so if you need a couple of pieces, I actually killed. So since I need leather boots, I've killed like the two that drop leather boots, or I think there's two that drop leather boots.
Yeah.
Um, so to sort of fill in my holes there, but yeah, I haven't gone all. I will tell you, I have not spent any time going after reputations. Like
Yeah.
I'll get them when I'll get them. Like I'll do like the weekly to get the 4,000 rep across everything. I'll probably do most of that as I like go back and do like the side quest hubs I missed.
Yeah.
So like each week, whenever that quest is ready, I'll just go back and do side quests for a couple of side quests and max it. But um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I feel
mean,
like I'm just been super casual.
it's been very chill, and actually it's really so the combination of not having a daily grind that you have to do to keep up,
Yeah.
and the relatively short leveling experience is just like I leveled my DK in the weekend. I did a Mythic Zero tour on it on Sunday night. I'm starting leveling my Paladin, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get a zero tour in on it. 9:30 on Monday, and a tour even with like if everybody's starting off not already being geared, it's gonna take you 3 hours to get through.
Yeah.
But I am gonna get my paladin up and have that ready, and it's just like I have time. Um,
Yeah.
and the paladin, like everything else I've done, I feel like has been there's a little bit of stuff that I did that I really didn't need to do.
Hmm.
That I thought I needed to do, but it ended up not being relevant. Stuff like the Cobalt Rep Grind. Part of the reason I did it is it drops or you can get the frosted armor kit recipe from that for leatherworking.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, this is how I'm going to finish like leveling up leatherworking. Only to find out that it requires 10 awakened frost,
Oh,
which if you're not familiar with those currencies, there's like rousing, which is like the bunch of, not a bunch,
yeah.
but some of, and then there's awakened, which are 10 of those. That's
Yeah.
100
Yeah.
rousing frost. They're like 2,500 gold to craft right now, the armor kit,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sell for like I think I actually have in my mailbox right now. Nobody bought
Oh, Jesus.
because people are trying to level their leatherworking,
Yeah.
which we'll get into in a minute. But yeah, that was part of the reason I did it. And honestly, if I realized how expensive it was and how irrelevant that was, I probably wouldn't have done Cobalt Rep at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for me, the only reason I did it was it was easy enough to do while doing something else, right? Like
Yeah,
I didn't need the my full attention there, and I needed a ring upgrade. It wasn't like I was still using like mid 340s rings at the time,
yeah,
so
yeah.
um it was still a solid upgrade, but yeah, yeah, I mean that's I think the world stuff for me. Um I don't know, you've been working on professions, I guess, which is
Yeah.
how do you, I guess maybe we start instead of like how do you like how do you like that professions have talent trees now and like there's knowledge
Um.
in that
Okay.
whole system?
So before I answer, I'm gonna say I can't give a complete answer right now because there's a lot that depends on how the crafting order system plays out.
Yeah.
And with so few people being level 70 and so few people having access to the materials that are required to put in work orders for those items, some of them literally not being possible to put in work orders for because you can't get the items yet. Um, I can't really fully answer it because like, and the other thing that it's gonna depend on is the how many knowledge points you get for your professions kind of per week after this initial like glut of getting all of this stuff from the world.
Hmm.
Um, because if it's really low, it's gonna feel bad to have specialized in something that maybe isn't very or useful. But if it's
Yeah.
reasonably high where you can fill out the tree not that much more time, it's gonna be fine because the pain of having made maybe a suboptimal choice is not gonna be a big deal, because you
Hmm.
can just get more points.
Yeah.
So I guess
Yeah.
kind of to give a real brief rundown, I've done leatherworking, skinning, cooking, fishing, a little bit of inscription, and a little bit of herbalism.
Okay.
Um, I got lucky and I got the feast from the community feast, like the feast recipe from the community feast, on the community feast this week, which is great because that means I can craft it for our guild. Um,
Hmm.
I don't think anybody else got it.
Oh no.
um, and then spent a lot of time fishing because people were charging 200,000 gold for the stupid fish recipes
Oh
to
Jesus.
like so the feast recipe, the primary
Hmm.
set feasts, there's 3 of them. Each one requires different foods to have been made, and then you turn those into the feast. The foods that you make are the deluxe fish meals that you can only get by fishing them up or by buying them off the auction house.
Okay.
So I fished them up. I did a bunch of AFK fishing while I was working uh just random stuff.
Yeah.
Some work while I was like I would have out work on my like I'm working on Wipe Fest stuff this week. Um,
Gotcha.
like work on that, tab in and out of WoW. It's like you know interact key for fishing very useful. Um, because that just meant that I like keybound my fishing key, and then I could also have a keybind for picking up the fish. So I would like tab out or like tab in, hit the fish button, tab out, do some stuff, hear the sound go off, tab back in, hit Y, which is my interact key,
Oh, you did that, yeah.
and then hit the fishing key, just like
Gotcha.
very easy.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so leatherworking has been a lot more involved. Cooking and fishing don't have the the like skill points and knowledge, that stuff. Um,
Hmm.
Leatherworking and skinning do. The gathering stuff is like fairly minor, honestly. It's all like affecting the rate at which you acquire different resources, not fundamentally altering whether you can. It's just
Hmm.
about how many of you get. So like there's some amount of guesswork of like guessing which ones are going to be the hardest you to get, or like the most expensive for you to buy, and trying to get more of those. But the numbers are all kind of hidden, so you never know if the one that says, "Oh, you become more likely to find species specific resources," is like, a 1% gain, or if it's like a
Yeah.
10% gain. And those are very different things. So wait and see. I don't know. Um, but for leatherworking, I think the big thing for me, so I started off, I go to it and I go, okay, somebody's had to have worked out the optimal, like the cheapest, least resource intensive way to level up leatherwork. I go and I
Hmm.
pull up the Wowhead guide because that's just a good place to start. And you get to like level 50 and slow down hard.
Yeah.
You get to like level 65, and honestly, there's like no points left. You can make null tents and frosted armor kits. And if you go into primordial leatherworking, which is what they recommend in the leveling guide, you get
Hmm.
fang adornments, which are actually fairly cheap. But again, all of those things only get you up to 75.
Gotcha.
From there, you have to be crafting epic quality, high item level stuff.
Interesting.
Which basically means you're doing crafting orders because that's the only way to get
Yeah.
enough of those materials, like other people giving you their bound on pickup materials effectively for you to craft with. Um, but as I was going through this, I was like, this kind of feels bad. I'm like, 68 points and can't really progress further on that. And then I just kind of like read through the tooltips in the talent tree section of the profession a little bit more carefully and felt a lot
Yeah.
better about my choices because I didn't go into the primordial tree because we already had a crafter in guild that was doing that. Like one of the
Right.
people on the midweek team was going into primordial leatherworking. I was like, well, there's no point in me like doubling up on that. Like it'll be a little bit harder for me to level it because I won't have the fang adornment,
Hmm.
but it won't be that bad, right? And it turns out that basically, in order to get the fang adornment, it costs like 30 or 40 knowledge points.
Right.
But if you put those directly into leatherworking, like tree, and I guess for context, the leather working profession has 4 trees. A lot of them only have 3. For
Okay.
leatherworking, there's 4. One that's just like general for the more consumable type stuff like armor kits, drums, and just like about reducing your resource usage in general.
Okay.
One that's for crafting leather armor, one that's for crafting mail armor, and one that's for crafting the like special bonus effect armor.
Gotcha.
Um, and that fourth one is primordial leatherwork. Um, in order to get fang adornments, it costs like 40 points into that tree. If
Hmm.
you put them just in the like making leather armor tree, each point is worth at least 1 skill point.
That's crazy.
So if I had put those 40 points in the fang adornments to get like 10 extra points in the like regular skill bar, I would have been like net minus 30 skill points on anything I crafted.
Right. Yeah.
And that made me feel a lot better about having just like specialized in the thing that I actually wanted to craft.
Right.
Um, so like then last night, the my co-tank is playing a demon hunter. I was like, hey,
Hmm.
can you? I'm looking to get this 382 piece crafted with my Mythic Zero like Titan training matrix thing.
Hmm.
So if you're not familiar, there's 2 different kinds of like 380 plus epic items. There's one It's like the Lifebound whatever that cost Spark of Ingenuity. They have different names for different armor types, different professions, but they all cost Spark of Ingenuity.
Right.
They're easy to craft. Any crafter that's put the points in the right place just has the recipe. The other ones, the Titan Training Matrix ones, to get them all the way to 382 is actually very hard right now. So you need to be able to, the way that the crafting works, and I've learned all about this over the past several days. Been a very wild ride. You have to reach like a skill cutoff in order to guarantee crafting at a certain item level.
Okay.
For crafting, like basically you're taking a blue like 316 or 340 item and you're upgrading it all the way to 382 using this Titan Training Matrix. That takes 225 skill.
Okay.
I have 68. It's
you're,
a
you're a
big
little
gap.
low. You're
It's
a little low.
big gap.
Oh
So,
yeah.
I ended up doing it. And so, sorry, it's 225 if you include a missive, which guarantees specific stats. He happened to roll the worst stat combination for him because we didn't include the missive because I couldn't quite guarantee highest eye level with the missive. I could get to 218.
Gotcha.
And those, like the gap between 68 and 218 just all comes from profession knowledge. And that's the stuff that you continue gaining over time. So like there's like 70 points that I got just from specializing. He wanted legs. I got 20 points, 20 knowledge points in legs, and that turned into literally 70 skill points when crafting legs.
Oh, very cool.
So figuring out all of that stuff has been very interesting. Figuring out like the quality of materials you use adds like if you use all the 3-star materials, it's like plus 20 skill points to the craft.
Yeah.
Which like all of that adds up. It's very interesting. So I guess I would say so far, like that was a really long way of saying so far I'm into it. So far I'm into it. It's actually there's a few things I think they really learned the correct lesson from Shadowlands crafting. The disaster that was Shadowlands crafting. Because I did leather working for my guild in patch 9.0 and was miserable and hated my life.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is there was nothing that went into it beyond playing, like crafting in Shadowlands was just about playing the auction house game.
Right.
If you like sitting in an auction house with Trades Guildmaster open and just like cancel scanning, then Shadowlands crafting was your jam. There are like 3 people in the world that like they don't exist. Okay. You can't convince me that there's a really big crowd of people that like sitting there with TSM open doing cancel scans. They don't exist.
It's fair. It's fair.
In contrast, like where Shadowlands crafted, you needed like a bajillion materials to craft anything.
Yeah.
For this, you need hardly any. Like the Frosted Armor Kit takes a bunch of Awakened Frost. The price on that'll get more reasonable in like a week, right? Once more people hit 70, a bunch of people, like the people will look at it and go, "Oh my god, the price is high. I'm going to go farm it," and the price will drop. It's week 1 that happens, but crafting actual armor, like you look at the materials requirements and it's like 2 hides and 16 leather. It's like, wait, I can go farm that.
Right. And like the number decreases depending on the quality too, right? So like quality 1, at least for enchanting, or sorry, for alchemy, the way it worked is like if you have a 3 quality herb, it counts for more. So if you had like 1 quality herb, it's like 15 herbs to make a potion. But if you have a 3 quality, it's like 4 or 5 of those or something ridiculous.
That's not how it works for leatherworking. For leatherworking, I guess for alchemy, there's no different like quality levels of the potions, right?
No, there are.
Oh, there are? Oh.
Yeah, so then you can increase the potion too, yeah.
Interesting.
So it's like the material costs are different. And maybe that, so to be fair, that might be my specialization because I'm a file master and that might be what's in there. I didn't read the tooltips. Yeah. I don't know.
Highly recommend reading the tooltips, by the way, and like the different bonuses that you can get, because there's a lot of bonuses you can get, and some of them are a lot better than others.
Yeah.
But for leatherworking it's always the same amount of materials. Like using a higher rank of material doesn't make it cost for materials. Gotcha. It does give you extra crafting skill. So
Okay.
like
Yeah.
if you are really high level leatherworking, then you can use lower quality materials to still guarantee the same like 5-star result. But if you're not as high level, because it's week one and nobody is yet, without
Exactly.
exploiting, then um, you need to use the 3-star materials in order to get a 5-star result.
Right. Yeah. 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 So I mean, I will say that I've had a very different experience to crafting. So you seem
Okay.
like you've enjoyed it. I have not enjoyed it at all. And that might just be the profession. So I am well. So sorry, I've mixed bag. So I'm alchemy and enchanting on my monk, which is generally what I always am because I'm lazy and enchanting is free gold at a certain point, and alchemy is just always nice to have extra flash timers, which I guess in this point is file timers, right?
Right.
Um, so that's that. And then on my druid, my alt, I'm herbalism and mining. And I will say herbalism mining, super cool. Like there are, if you haven't done much in terms of gathering, there are like enchanted gathering nodes that
Yeah.
basically give you extra like they give you some sort of like additional what are they not they're I would call
Like
them moats,
the
but they're
frigid,
rousing.
yeah, the rousing or awakened stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so they give you those if you loot one of those things. They also debuff you or buff you. So like the wind one is
I
fun
got
because it
killed by
gives you
that.
airs, and but then it also knocks you back twice, and like you can get and the air ones are only on mountains, so like you are probably getting knocked off a mountain.
Yes.
But the cool thing is if you spec into basically the pathway is like eventually you get to mount or sorry loot while mounting. It's like the gathering one, but it if you put enough points in there, you eventually get to overload those nodes. So like if you overload the
Oh,
air one, it shoots you in the air and then you slowly fall. But as you fall, you want to collect these little petals and they give you extra material. Or like
wait,
the
that's so
some of the
cool.
some of the rock ones you can overload like the hardened ones and it spawns smaller craters that let you loot and gives you like just as much as the main hit from the main node. So
Oh
you get like
wow.
extra material that way.
Yeah.
And so the cooldown, it's on a 12-hour cooldown, which
Okay.
sounds awful. However, it drops by like 30 minutes every time you loot a node.
Yeah.
So generally
S-
speaking, it's probably about a half-hour cooldown if you're only like sort of looting around stuff.
skinning has something similar. So you can craft bait using the like basic meat material.
Hmm.
And then you can use your rousing whatevers to turn them into element specific baits if you specialize
Okay.
in bait crafting. And doing that, it's pretty much every time I've done it, you get back at least as many rousing stuff as you put in. And again, it's a
Hmm.
12-hour cooldown, but in this case, it is reduced by 10 minutes every time you skin something. Which,
Okay. Cool.
I mean, it's probably less than it is for like herbalism because you can like really put some NPCs in a meat grinder and just go to town skinning them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually another interesting thing where like that's going to be a way to get a bunch of these like right now awakened frost and awakened air are really expensive, but
Hmm.
once people go like wait those are really expensive, let me put my knowledge points in the thing that gives me more awakened air while I am out herbing,
Yeah.
and that's going to
Yeah.
help
It's
reduce the price of those.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, but it's a cool little take on like just not the standard herbing. And then like with herbalism too, there are nodes, they're like soil piles around the world.
Yeah,
And so
the
you can
legion
loot
style like
seeds.
seed plant stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So you can plant a seed and get like a free node or a free loot from that. So no, yeah, it's the gathering profession's super cool. Huge fan. I think tonight if I go see the master trainers, I'll be able to get like loot while mounting upgrades on
Nice.
both for both herbalism and mining, which will be fun. Um, on the other side, crafting, I do not like it at all. And alchemy, so alchemy in particular, I think enchanting's fine. Enchanting is enchanting. It is what it is. Like it's just
Yeah.
the same as it always was. It's there's no huge difference there. But alchemy has the discovery system back, and it's
Oh, I heard about this. Yeah.
so it's if you played back in even in BC was sort of the last time they did it, and in BC it
Cataclysm had
was
it.
oh Kata had it too.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember it from Kata, but I remember it in BC, and like you would back then you would as you crafted things you would have a chance each craft to discover something else, and like so eventually you would discover everything, but you do it by crafting. In here, you basically have a specific like experimentation thing that you
Yeah.
do. And you basically, run the experimentation. You have the chance to create something random. So there's file and potion. So if you do a file experimentation, you have the chance to create a file. You also have the chance to discover a new file that you don't know yet as you do it. And so you do that to gain all the recipes eventually. A couple of things that bother me about this system is that number one, it can fail, and then you have a 4-hour cooldown where you can no longer experiment.
Yep.
Which is actually why I think they turned off this ability for like 3 or 4 days earlier in the week
Yeah.
because it was never failing like this. You could just keep experimenting.
So what was happening is that it was like if your experiment failed and then you logged off immediately and logged back in, it didn't go on cooldown.
Oh, that was the issue. So I never failed one before they took it down. So I guess I
Yeah.
never hit that.
So
I
it,
thought it was
it,
because it
it
never
was
failed.
failing, but you could like log out and log back. So
Gotcha.
there are people now that I don't know if they did bans. I think they did like short bans for people that did a lot of
Hmm.
abuse of it, but um yeah.
I didn't realize that was a thing. In any event, I hate that it can fail because it's a 4-hour cooldown at that point. There is an item you get. I've gotten 4 of them so far that basically clear the cooldown immediately. So like there is
Okay.
a way around it, but still like I had failed like right before this, so I have my 4-hour cooldown with no thanks. That's one issue. I hate the fact that it's random about what you get. And
Yeah.
then the biggest problem for me is that the materials to do the experimentation come from basically deconstructing potions you're making elsewhere. So like
Yeah.
to get the materials to do the experimentation, you have to deconstruct a previously crafted item. So like whether that's a potion or more
Yeah.
other files and things like that. And so like it's this weird loop of like it's to me you're like, oh, it's not that many leatherworking materials, but like herbalism, why? Like the amount of herbs I need, because I not only need to craft things, then
Yeah.
deconstruct them, but then there's also items I need to craft just with the special herbs, with like the
Yeah.
green
The green
herbs
herbs.
to also then throw into this experimentation. And then the experimentation has a chance to not give me anything new. So like I wanted
Yeah.
to tear. I did like 5 experiments in a row, got nothing new, got a bunch of versatility files that I then deconstructed, only got 5 more items from that I could then do it again. So I'm gonna do it 2 more times.
Yeah.
I was like, and then it exploded on me. At that point, I just logged off. I'm like,
Yeah.
so like,
I mean that sounds kind of like the situation with fishing and cooking where like um you literally can't level cooking until you can get to like 25 skill until you get some of these fish recipes. Or some of
yeah,
the other world drop recipes or reputation recipes. So I got one that somebody in guild had happened to have dropped for them, and I
nice.
got that
Okay.
from them. So that unblocked me pretty much right away.
Uh
Um,
huh.
but then like to get the others, I ended up getting like some of them from doing my big like AFK fishing the one day I did it. But I'm still actually missing 2 of the recipes. So there's an entire kind of fish that I can't use.
Hmm.
And because I can't use, actually, there's 2 entire kinds of fish that I can't use. Because I can't use either of those, there's an entire like higher tier of fishing recipes locked off from me because
Yeah.
I have not gotten those recipes yet, and they are still 100,000 gold on the auction house. Um,
God.
and so I may have to sit down and do another AFK fishing session,
Uh huh.
um, in order to get those recipes to make sure I can craft the feasts. I'm gonna have to double check exactly which feast I got and confirm that I have the right recipes for that. But I may just have to like, sit down, you know, pull up WoW in the background and go back to AFK fishing and just like try and get those draconic recipe in a bottles, which
Yeah.
by the way can drop any world drop recipe pretty much, not just cooking ones.
Interesting. Interesting.
I've gotten inscription techniques. I've gotten um I got an enchanting one, I think, from that. There's
Nice.
maybe it was alchemy. I don't remember. I couldn't use it. So there's a bunch that can drop from those. It's not guaranteed to be fishing, so it's not like I'll eventually necessarily get it. And I may just end
Hmm.
up having to bite the bullet and get one off the auction house, but hopefully they will be less gold in two
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's hope. Yeah. Oh, that is just, yeah, that's sort of yeah, it's the whole discovery thing is just in general, like I would rather it be locked behind reputation or something that like there's a known end to it.
Yeah,
Because like right now, like there are like in essence, like because like I'm going file mastery in terms of like what I want to focus on. And so like there's literally like two files I want. Like
yeah,
that's it. And like the rest of them, cool, I'll get them and that's fine. But like I want those two because those two are the best two in terms of like what I need as a healer and what like DPS or like, other, players in my guild will need. And so it's just like I don't want to have to spin this effing wheel like 40 times
yeah.
to like get what I want, right?
So there was
So,
actually a very similar discovery thing in Cataclysm, with two major differences. One, it was just a daily cooldown, and that's actually
yeah.
pretty much both differences. It was just a daily cooldown. You did it every day. You logged on. You did your discovery thing. Done.
Mhm.
It couldn't fail. Um, so you just like eventually discovered everything. Uh, but at the same time, like there's technically a downside where like it took a long time because you had to do it once a day. And, when there's 30 recipes or something like that, it's just like you're logging on every day for a month to get everything.
Yeah.
Um, versus like it sounds like the alchemy thing, while it's like it's a lot more involved, you can probably get through the recipes faster with a little bit of luck and not having it backfire.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't
But
it's
yeah,
just
I definitely can relate to that from like the fishing cooking angle, where like I was trying to get cooking ready to make feasts for the guild and was like
I'm
I
s-
can't.
Yeah, like I don't and like the only thing I can do is I can log on my druid and fly around and get more herbs to then
Yeah,
make things to then do more disguise. Like and it's just a it's an in my mind like that is the only like beyond this like I said like I think the talent trees within professions like the talent whatever they call it profession
specialization.
knowledge
Yeah,
or the specializations something like that super cool like I think that idea is great I think it expands in general like professions which have been fairly benign for like expansions right I'd say to be fair like since they got rid of like weapon specializations like
yeah,
that was sort of
yeah,
like the coolest part and now since then it's just been like I pick enchanting because it's cheap and easy to make gold eventually because I will DE all my gear anyway and just sell the crystals.
yeah,
I'll end up with hundreds. It's awesome. And then alchemy because I'm lazy and don't want to have to forget to buy flasks or like I just want to drink
yeah,
one or two flasks at a time, like at a
yeah,
time. So um but yeah, no, I'm super into it. It's just like this discovery part of it is
yeah,
just unfun.
yeah.
Just
I
unfun.
I understand that one. Actually, speaking of knowledge, a couple of tips. We are running out of time, but I do want to get through these because they are actually really big tips. One,
Hmm.
there is a profession master for every profession somewhere on the Dragon Isles. Wowhead has a list. They give you, for gathering, they give you 10 skill points, or sorry, not skill points, knowledge points, which put them in the right place. One knowledge point is as good as or better than skill point. Uh, for crafting professions, it's 5 knowledge. I don't entirely understand why, but it is less um, for crafting professions versus gathering professions. And then there are also between 6 and 8 treasures that have been
Yep.
discovered so far for every profession that give just every one of those gives 3 typically knowledge points for
Yep.
your profession. And so if you combine those two things, like for leatherworking, there's 7 knowledge treasures plus 5 from master. It's 26 knowledge points. It's a
It's a
lot
huge
right now.
amount.
Before I did the crafting last night for these guys for my Gotenks pants, I had 45 knowledge banked because I wasn't sure what people were gonna want.
Right,
Um,
yeah.
so it's it adds up a lot. Second thing, actually, going crafting plus gathering is super good because you can get knowledge points for your crafting profession while gathering.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
So
I didn't
I've
realize
actually
that.
gotten a bunch of leatherworking knowledge from going out and skinning. And like
Yeah.
things would be more efficient if I bothered to put in the effort to find like a skinning 2x4 like kind of setup and that.
Yeah.
But honestly, like I just go out and solo skin and like,
Yeah.
do
Just kind of
that.
hang out.
Yeah, and just like you get a bunch of leather from that. There is a guy in guild that has skinning and has gotten it has been like the 2x4s and gotten like not million. It feels like millions looking at how much leather he's gotten.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
but yeah,
Yeah, no, it's oh sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say no. The professions definitely feel good. Like my notwithstanding my main issue, and I think that's just with the whole
I
RNG
think that's an
discovery aspect
alchemy.
of it.
Honestly, I think that's an alchemy
Yeah,
problem.
it might just be an alchemy specific problem, but even at that, like I still enjoy like the cool like the interesting difference between like the different tiers of like the potions you can make and like when something
Yeah,
inspires me to get like you get an insta proc, I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
yeah,
So like um there's still it's still a I think the profession refresh is good. I think my one gripe is probably just with alchemy, right? Because
yeah,
enchanting is like enchanting's whatever. Like that's a simple system. I get that. That's fine.
yeah.
But
I mean,
um
I think actually on the whole, the system is fairly confusing to get into. I think there's a lot there, and I think it's presented fairly poorly. At least in the sense that like, okay, I get an item. Like if I get a piece of gear, right, just regular
mhm,
combat gear. I look at the stats. I know what this. I can tell what the stats do. Like you
yeah.
don't need to look anything up to tell that haste makes your stuff faster,
Mhm.
or that critical strike makes you crit more often. You know, those things are fairly apparent. Versatility, less so, but you can still go into your character sheet and mouse over the versatility thing, and it tells you exactly what it does. You
Right.
can't do that for any of the crafting stats.
That's true actually, yeah.
I had to go and look up on Wowhead what the crafting stats actually did.
Yeah.
Um, while I was figuring out if I could do this craft last night. Uh, and yeah, that was really annoying. The like I think there's a big like you need like a character sheet but for crafting
Yeah.
that lets you mouse over your different stats and like explains what they do and all of that stuff. And the crafting order system is also like pretty confusing to people. We've had to walk several people in guild through the process of putting in crafting orders.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, no, that's I can see that they don't do a good job of onboarding the new stuff for sure. So
you go through the crafting quests, and it's literally like info dumps. Like you talk
yeah,
to a guy and he's like, "Okay, here's 4 paragraphs on how you do this thing." It's like, okay.
I'm not
Uh,
used to this in my WoW.
honestly, that's just a sign that that it's not clear, that the
Yeah,
UI
no.
is not clear. And like I understand on some level that like making it clear is really hard, but
Right.
also if you feel the need to put that there, like there's a problem.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
this is way better than what we had in Shadowlands. It's the best the profession system I think has been in a long, long time.
Yeah, I mean, I'd actually go on a limb and say ever.
I
Like, I think this is
I
probably
would
better
probably
than
agree with that.
the launch crafting
Yeah.
systems too.
Um it's really nice that there's a lot of things about the profession system, like the knowledge system, the fact that crafts don't take very many materials. Like it all encourages like you as an individual to go out and like in the world and collect your own stuff and gather your own
Yeah.
stuff and craft your own stuff. It feels like reasonable to do that. Whereas like in Shadowlands, like looking at crafting my own legendaries, there's no fucking way.
Yeah,
No
no.
chance. None.
Yeah.
Um, but I can go out like if I wanted, like if I had gotten one of these Titan training matrices, you know, then I could go and like in 30 minutes get all the materials I need from just going and skidding easily.
Mhm.
And in doing so, like pick up a few free knowledge points from just the process of it, um, and then make my own stuff. And that's cool. That's I think to me the Shadowlands kind of crafting is like the big goblin style crafting where you want to monopolize things and you play the auction house. And it's not really you're not interested in crafting. You're interested in the auction house.
Right, yeah. exactly.
Whereas Dragonflight professions are about making things for you and your friends to use. And
Yeah.
like there's a big difference in philosophy, and I think it really, really has worked out well so far.
No,
I'm
yeah, it's
very
definitely. Sorry.
I'm very interested to see how crafting order next couple of weeks. Because it's gonna be a lot less interesting if in 3 weeks none of it matters because nobody's putting in crafting orders.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be yeah, once people start actually hitting max level and needing some things, it'll be it'll be fun to see if that system is as cool as it sounds. Um so cool. I mean, I don't whether there's I had one final thing, and it's sort of a hot off the presses thing, but
Okay. Okay.
how did you have anything else you wanted to cover before we sort of do that and then maybe wrap?
No, I think profession's good. I'm happy with it so far. I'm excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I am also. So hot off the presses, this is Monday. This is what you get when you get a Monday night special episode. Blizzard just put out a blue post that basically stated the World Quest change will not be happening tomorrow, and World Quest will remain bi-weekly.
I am actually. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're watching, you could see me like do the celebratory thing. I'm really happy about that. And I
Yeah,
mean, their explanation for this is basically like, okay, listen, we heard you that you don't want to go back to the daily grind, and you
yeah,
don't want to feel pressured to do the daily grind, so we're not going to make it daily.
yeah,
And I honestly, I think this lends credence to the thing that there is like this vocal minority that had like the ear of Blizzard that was like, I don't want to clear the board. I want to clear the board. There is one
yeah.
thing. There is one thing, and that is that without world quests, there is not a clear way to gain reputation with several.
Yeah, that's the only issue I'll have.
And
Yeah.
that's I think so. There's also I think they were trying to do like two birds one stone. Like there's people that want to clear the board, and give them a board to clear would make them happy. But then there's also like people want to get their rep. Like they see the rep
Mhm.
bar, they want to fill it up, and they don't know how. They can't figure out
Right.
how. And that's actually the original announcement. They said they were not going to change the uh, Onaran Plains world quests because
Yeah.
the rep from the hunts existed, and you could go and just the hunt train around and do that um, to get your reputation up. Like that, it seems like they're trying to solve that reputation problem. So, uh, but for like the Tuskar or the Valdrakken Accord, there's not a clear way to.
Yeah.
There are ways, it's just, and so I think that we'll see some like reputation changes from this.
Yeah, or probably, or just even like better quest pointers, right? Like
Yeah,
in-game pointers to like where you need to either grind or what you need to do to
right.
to
Because like
raise it. So,
for example, the hunt always shows up on your map.
hmm
For the Murk stuff, the hunt always shows up. You always know where it is, and you know that you can go.
hmm
And if you do go and participate past the point that it gives rewards, you still get reputation for it. The community feast does not show up on your map if you've already done it for the week. You
right.
do still gain reputation for doing
I didn't know that. I guess you
it.
only
I
get the
didn't either
rewards weekly.
until
You get the
recently.
rewards weekly.
Yeah,
Okay. So the reward I knew it was a weekly thing to do, but I guess so the rewards are weekly, but the actual rep is daily or whenever it's up. So
yeah,
got it. It
but
was
yeah.
like 3 hours or whatever. So
So you can go and do that, and it's like 500, which is
nice.
not a small amount. Um, Currently, it's still a lag fiesta every single time I've been there. And the
You need a
rep
smaller
scales with the
server.
number of tasks. That you get like 25 rep per task complete. So if it's a lag fiesta and you can't manage to successfully complete any of them, you get
You're
like very
screwed.
little rep. But
Yeah.
if you get a good instance where there's not very many people and you can complete like 10 tasks, you get a ton of rep for 10 minutes.
Very nice.
I mean, I'm happy about that change, honestly, or lack of change. I would like them to change the world quests to like maybe instead of giving 75 rep, it gives 175 or 225 or something.
Yes.
And I'm sure they have a finely tuned thing, but honestly, like maybe they just need to better point out how you gain rep. Because besides the community feast, I don't know where to go for like Tuskar rep. I know there's two
Maybe
fishing
some of the
dailies.
fishing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there's two fishing dailies to do to maintain the water, the fishing hole. that's 100 rep or something. That's
Yeah.
you're not getting anywhere fast with that.
No, I think it might just be the feast. Yeah.
I
Which would make
mean,
sense because that would align with the hunts too, right?
yeah,
Like
and
maybe that's their.
there's for Tuskar specifically, you can get like totems that drop from treasures. I've never seen one drop. I have no idea if they work.
That's for every rep. So every rep has
Okay,
its own rep token that you can then
yeah,
turn in for additional rep. And I think they generally drop in the zone for that rep.
right.
So like,
I think the Tuskar one can drop from anywhere, but I don't know because again, I've
oh,
never
that's
seen
true.
one. And then there's another Tuskar one that you unlock at like Renown 6
Gotcha.
that when you kill, it's like elite rares.
Uh,
Will drop once a week something.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Very cool.
But again, like I don't know where to go. It's like very short list.
Yeah, but it's cool. I mean, hey, we get to figure it out, right? Like
Yeah,
that's maybe the fun of this
that
one.
has
So
been actually a lot of the fun of the stuff. And that's another thing I'm curious how the profession stuff will hold up once we're 3 months in, have figured everything out.
right. Yeah.
Because right now we're still figuring it all out. Like I spent last night partially making a spreadsheet to figure out how my skill points were working out and like whether I could actually get to the level I needed.
Yeah.
Um, is it still going to be as interesting? Like, am I still going to be enjoying professions in 3 months when we just know how it all works?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that'll be, yeah, we'll see how long this lasts, this little honeymoon period lasts. But I will say it is a solid change to what we had, I'd say,
Yeah.
previous to this. So
But yeah. Do you have anything else you want to go over?
no, it's just that final good news of no more daily world quest resets. So I think
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah. All
It's been a
right.
good launch week. It's been an awesome launch week. So
Yeah. I mean, I guess actually I have one final. There've been a
okay.
lot of bugs. Obviously there was the server issues that I mentioned. We've covered a couple of different exploits. There's a
Hmm.
lot more. Nothing like super game breaking. Like somebody probably there's a few people that got advantage in like, crafting professions, and a few people that got like normal high level stuff from rares that they were able, you know,
Hmm.
things like that. But nothing like game breaking. But there have been a lot of bugs. At the same time, there have also been a lot of hot fixes, and a lot of the
Yeah.
hot fixes don't get full boosts. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's been an element of it. It's been a very it's been a roller coaster of a week where like you hear
Yeah.
about some new thing that people have found and like an hour later you hear that it's been fixed.
Yeah, that's true. I did, yeah, a couple of those like things you could get like perks from or
Yeah,
like loot from it were fixed very, very quickly. So
yeah. But yeah, it's been I honestly like I was really excited for Dragonflight launch and so far I'm very happy with how it's played out.
yeah, I honestly I would say it did not disappoint. Met my expectations. So I
Yep.
think it's like the thing you can hope for the most with stuff like this. So yeah,
Yep.
it's been a blast.
So yeah, I think that is going to wrap up the show for today. Thank you all for watching and or listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, you want to support it and the other work that we are on the Peak, you can do that over at our Patreon at patreon.com/Peak of Serenity. And of course, come and join the Discord, hang out, please be nice. I've had some fights in the brew questions areas.
Mistweavers have been fine. I got pinged about Brewmaster stuff. Come on.
It's that Brewmaster is no longer a top dog, and some people are having an existential crisis because like Brewmaster might not be like the top raid pick and also one of the top picks. So like, I'm being a little bit dismissive. There, like Brewmaster legitimately has problems and legitimately like could use further buffs. Um, but also virtually
Welcome to
nobody,
Mistweavers.
yeah, virtually nobody is going to run into actual serious limitations from that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you don't get your plus 35s done this week. You can
Yeah,
still do your weekly
yeah,
15.
yeah, exactly. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Although, all right, we'll end the show, but I will say, going into Mythic Zeros with 50% stagger was an adventure that I do not wish to repeat.
Nice.
50% stagger is too damn.
Yeah, that seems dangerous.
That's it for the show this week. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.